10 coolest Autobots in the Transformers franchise. The Autobots are Transformers heroes, defenders of justice, and the only group that can stand up to the Decepticons. In the world of Transformers, the Autobots stand as the only thing between the evil Decepticons and destruction. Led by the infallible Optimus Prime, the Autobots stand for truth, justice, and honor while making it their mission to protect all life, while the Decepticons seemingly devise sinister plans. The Autobots almost always prevail. Unfortunately, like other great franchises like Star Wars, Halo, or Lord of the Rings, the bad guys are much cooler than the good guys. While the Autobots mostly stick to transforming into land-based vehicles, the Decepticons get much more variety in the form of tanks, jets, and helicopters. Still, a couple few Autobots manage to stand out from the rest. While the Decepticons might have the overall edge and cool factor, a select few Autobots aren't too shabby themselves. Bumblebee is the iconic mascot for the Transformers franchise. There isn't a more recognizable Transformer than the small yellow Autobot, Bumblebee. While Optimus Prime is also a huge pop culture icon in his own right, Bumblebee is more or less the mascot of the Transformers franchise. He's appeared in nearly every piece of Transformers media since the IP's inception. One of the earliest Autobots introduced, Bumblebee, has seen a lot of time in the limelight. First introduced in 1983, Bumblebee is often presented as a loyal friend and follower of Optimus Prime. Yet, his small stature forces him to take numerous risks to prove himself to his teammates. While the small yellow convertible might not be much to look at, Bumblebee has become a pop culture staple. Jazz is a beloved member of the Autobots. Unlike Megatron, who finds himself short on friends, Optimus Prime seems to have several comrades he can turn to for support. Among the most loyal and trusted of Prime's Autobot allies is Jazz, characterized to be a more stylish and hip Transformer. Jazz is both laid back yet incredibly reliable and trusted. Among the Autobots, he is one of the most popular. Introduced in Generation 1, Jazz's original form was that of the Porsche 935, although the car he transforms into has changed with time. Entrusted for several special operations jobs, Jazz is incredibly proficient while maintaining a relaxed demeanor. While the character who's too cool to be there can be a tiresome trope, Jazz manages to pull it off flawlessly. Sideswipe is one of the cool G1 Autobots, unlike the Decepticons, who have received numerous superb additions in recent years. For many fans, the newer Autobots don't hold a candle to the Generation 1 classics. Hasbro cleverly made up for the less flashy transformations by giving the early Autobots unique and distinct personalities. One of the most memorable of the lot was Sideswipe. Introduced in Generation 1, Sideswipe is one of the few Autobots who is presented well in Michael Bay's commercially successful Transformer movies, initially transforming into a Lamborghini Countach. Sideswipe shares some similarities with Jazz but stands out with his jetpack and more subdued demeanor. Sideswipe was also one of the early Autobots that some parents deemed too violent for kids. Mirage was a favorite among the hardcore fans. Many of the Autobots exhibit very stoic and idealistic traits. Since Transformers were meant for children, it makes sense for the good guys to have evident morally right characteristics. That is most certainly not the case with Mirage. While many Autobots want to save lives and defeat the Decepticons, Mirage has a different perspective on life. Introduced in Generation 1, Mirage is presented as more arrogant and generally views the war with the Decepticons as beneath him. He's characterized as a Transformer who lives in luxury and treats everything with a lax attitude that causes problems with his comrades. However, Mirage is very reliable and one of the most skilled warriors among the Autobots, making him an invaluable member of Optimus Prime's team. Drift turned from deadly Decepticon to reliable Autobot. Considering how Transformers has always been aimed at children since the IP was created, many of the Transformers, both Autobots and Decepticons, have pretty clear-cut personalities. While some characters have received much more depth, for the most part, there's not much character development behind a Transformer. However, that isn't always the case, as seen with Drift. Drift was one of the later additions in the early wave of Autobots introduced. Originally a Decepticon named Deadlock, Drift's perspective was changed when he became disgusted with how the Decepticons were fighting the war, deciding to switch sides. Drift instantly became one of the most dangerous Autobots and a favorite among fans. Windblade was a transformer made for the fans. One of the few female Transformers. Windblade has some of the strongest moral stances of any Autobot. Windblade is a highly valued member of the Autobot cause, fully committed to duty and having immeasurable faith in others. Being one of the few Autobots who can turn into a jet, Windblade quickly established herself as a force to be reckoned with. A team is only as strong as its leader, and the Autobots would be an empty shell if it weren't for their leader Optimus Prime. If there were any Transformer that could inspire people to run through a brick wall, it would be Optimus Prime. Unwaverable, stoic, and honorable, Optimus is one of the most skilled Autobots. Optimus Prime is the stoic leader of the Autobots. A team is only as strong as its leader, and the Autobots would be an empty shell if it weren't for their leader Optimus Prime. If there were any Transformer that could inspire people to run through a brick wall, it would be Optimus Prime. Unwaverable, stoic, and honorable, Optimus is one of the most powerful Autobots. Optimus was the first Transformer created in 1980 and has been in every piece of Transformer media since his debut. Besides being one of the coolest designed Transformers, he also has the most iconic voice of Hasbro's robots. Voice actor Peter Cullen has voiced Optimus for decades, and it's hard to imagine anyone else taking up the mantle. Omega Supreme towers as one of Titan Transformers. Michael Bay's Transformers films often paint the Autobots as hopeless underdogs. Along with being heavily outnumbered, the Decepticons have an edge in technology and power. From Devastator to Drillerbot, the enormous Transformers all work for Megatron. However, the comics and expanded Transformers universe show the Autobots have a couple of aces up their selves. Omega Supreme is one of the largest Transformers in the whole franchise, and one of the oldest. The last surviving member of the Cybertron's natural protectors, the Guardian robots, Omega Supreme, is a Titan. He places great value on preserving his home and, as such, looks down upon the Decepticons for starting this war, both figuratively and literally. Sentinel Prime comes from the ancient age of Cybertron. Having legendary actor Leonard Nimoy's voice would do wonders for any character, and it certainly didn't hurt Sentinel Prime. Nimoy's voice performance as Sentinel Prime in 2011's Transformers: Dark Side of the Moon is one of the biggest bright spots in a film with many problems. Still, Sentinel Prime was hardly an unknown Transformer even before the movie, having been around for millions of years. Sentinel Prime is one of the oldest Transformers around. Often depicted as Optimus Prime's predecessor for the Autobots, Sentinel Prime is an extremely powerful Transformer. While his overconfidence has led to his downfall, his strength is nearly unmatched by anyone else on Cybertron. Grimlock stands tall as the premier Dinobot. The Tyrannosaurus Rex was already cool before Hasbro introduced a Transformer that could turn into a giant metal one. Grimlock is the main Dinobot and easily one of the most imposing Autobots around. While his transformation is simple, he stands out among the Autobots and all the Transformers. Unlike the other Autobots, Grimlock often views humans and other life forms beneath him. While he is mainly on the good side of the moral compass, he can be incredibly ruthless and vicious in battle, much like the creature that inspired his design. One of the first Grimlock toys was displayed in the Natural History Museum of London for a while.